Jai Anilo Premadano Karma Kacho
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 16, text number 32. Dvasto Adishya Bhagavan Vinana Sheni Bhushanam Sarvatichayaya Lakshmiya Justam Svam Vishniyam Avisha Dvastravatishya Bhagavan Vimana Shreni Bhushanam Sarvatishaya Lakshmiya Justam Svam Dishniyam Avisha Dvastravitasya Atishya Bhagavan Vimana Shreni Bhushanam Sarvatishaya Lakshmiya Justam Svam Dishniyam Avisha
Vastavadishya Bhagavan Srini Bhushanam
Vimana Srini Bhushanam
Sarvatishya Lakshmya Krishna Consciousness Vashtavadishya Bhagavan
Vimana Srini Bhushanam
Bhatishya Lakshmya
Bhaktivedanta Bhagavan Dvastav, the doorkeepers. Adishya, just directing them. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vimana Srini Bhushanam, always decorated with first-class airplanes. Sarva Atishayaya, in every respect extensively opulent. Lakshmya, opulences. Justam, bedecked with. Svam, his own. Dishnya, abode. Avishat, went back. Purport, translation, and purport by Srila Prabhupada. After thus speaking at the door of Vaikuntha, the Lord returned to his abode, where there are many celestial airplanes, and all surpassing wealth and splendor. Purport. It is clear from this verse that all the incidences took place at the entrance of Vaikuntha Loka. In other words, the sages were not actually within Vaikuntha Loka, but were at the gate. It could be asked, how could they return to the material world if they entered Vaikuntha Loka? But factually, they did not enter, and therefore they returned. There are many similar incidences where great yogis and brahmanas, by dint of their yoga practice, have gone from the material world to Vaikuntha Loka, but they were not meant to stay there. They came back. It is also confirmed here that the Lord was surrounded by many Vaikuntha airplanes. Vaikuntha Loka is described here as having splendid opulence, far surpassing the splendor of this material world. All other living creatures, including the demigods, are born of Brahma, and Brahma is born of Lord Vishnu. Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita in the 10th chapter, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, Lord Vishnu is the origin of all manifestations in the material world. Those who know that Lord Vishnu is the origin of everything, who are conversant with the process of creation, and who understand that Vishnu or Krishna is the most worshipable object of all living entities, engage themselves in Vishnu worship as Vaishnavas. The Vedic hymns also confirm this. Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam. The goal of life is to understand Vishnu. The Bhagavatam also confirms this elsewhere. Foolish people, not knowing that Vishnu is the supreme worshipable object, create so many worshipable objects in this material world, and therefore they fall down. So from this verse now, particularly from the purport, Prabhupada gives us one of his views. I say one of his views because if you read, you'll see he gives different views. In this view, we are told that the reason Jai and Vijay came into this world is because they weren't actually in Vaikuntha Loka, which implies that someone who isn't Vaikuntha Loka can't fall down. Prabhupada says, it could be asked, how could they return to the material world if they entered Vaikuntha Loka? Right? This is the question that we said yesterday is always causing a debate. If someone is in the spiritual world, why would they ever leave the spiritual world? Well, Prabhupada says, it could be asked. And he says, but factually, they did not enter, and therefore they returned. That's why he says they came, because they really actually weren't in Vaikuntha Loka. And he says there are many similar incidences where great yogis and Brahmins, by dint of their yoga practice, have gone from this material world to Vaikuntha Loka, but they're not meant to stay there. In other words, it would appear that they got to the point where Jaya and Vijaya got up to the gate, and that's about as far as they could go. Just as the four Kumaras are considered to be, they were great city yogis, but they couldn't get in. They got stopped at the gates by Jaya and Vijaya, because only pure devotees could enter. Then Lord Narayan came, apparently on a spaceship, and, gave them darshan, and after they got his darshan, then they could get in to Vaikuntha Loka. So here's a position that Prabhupada takes where he seems to be saying, those who come, those who are in the spiritual world, do not fall down. Again, you can ask, well then, what about us? Well, at least from this purport, it seems to be quite clear. They don't come here. All other living creatures, including the demigods, are born from Brahma, and Brahma is born of Lord Vishnu. Now we hear a distinction made between those who are liberated and those who are conditioned. Conditioned souls are born from Brahma. That's one of the qualities generally of a conditioned soul. They take birth from Brahma. He said generally, not always. Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasva Prabhava, Lord Vishnu is the origin of all manifestations in the material world. And Prabhupada makes the point now that those who know Vishnu is the goal, they worship him. And those who do not are foolish, and they create other worshipable objects. Now I'm going to read the next verse. I'm going to read a few more verses. Text 33. Tau tu girhana rishabho dustaro dali lokataha hata shriyo brahma sapat abhutam vigata smayo. But those two gatekeepers, the best of the demigods, their beauty and luster diminished by the curse of the Brahmins, became morose and fell from Vaikuntha, the abode of the Supreme Lord. So, it's mentioned that when you commit offenses, you lose you lose your auspiciousness, which means you lose your longevity, life, you lose your beauty, you lose your fame, you lose your wealth, you lose all opulences. You become materially devastated. Of course, one might ask, well, it seems like there's a lot of apparatus running around the planet who have all of these. And of course, then we answer, well, just wait. They'll get theirs sooner or later. I mean, of course, that's that's not a very strong argument, but that would be our answer. Because there's really anyway, that's not a very strong argument, but that would be our argument. Their beauty, everything is lost. Then next verse. Then as giant Vijay fell from the Lord's abode, a great roar of disappointment arose from all the demigods who were sitting on their splendid airplanes. Right? We mentioned this yesterday. You know, the demigods, why were they roaring like this? Can anyone speculate? Why do you think a great roar arose, a disappointment arose from the demigods? They were unhappy that the Kumars cursed them, and the other ideas.
They knew that they were coming as demons and they were going to harass them severely.
They knew that they were coming as demons, and they knew that they were going to be harassed by these demons. Huh? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He said maybe they were thinking it could happen to them. I think also that maybe that's what they thought, that we can also lose our position. If someone can fall from Vaikuntha, then what to speak of we who are just situated in the material world, in some planet, even if we're kings. And this certainly is the case. We see, even great personalities ultimately succumb, at least to death. Then next text. Lord Brahma continued, those two principal doorkeepers of the personality of Godhead have now entered the womb of Diti, the powerful semen of Kashyapa Muni, having covered them. Purport. Now listen to this purport. This is really what I'm getting to. But really, I want to get to this because this is very. It says, here is a clear proof of how a living entity coming originally from Vaikuntha Loka is engaged in material elements. Wow. Didn't give me what I wanted. Let's see, I didn't read it. I was thinking that here the purport is, which Prabhupada says exactly the opposite of what he said before, but it does say that elsewhere. But here, it is a clear proof of how a living entity coming originally from Vaikuntha Loka is engaged in material elements. So, the point I want to make, though, it doesn't say giant Vijay. It says a living entity coming from Vaikuntha Loka. So the question then has to be asked, that a living entity means all living entities coming from Vaikuntha Loka. So now the question is, so we are those living entities coming from Vaikuntha Loka. Now what does Vaikuntha Loka mean? Does it mean that we were with Krishna in past times with Krishna? Does it mean we were with Lord Narayan in past times with Lord Narayan? Is Vaikuntha Loka here another name, since it's the external area of Vaikuntha Loka for the Brahman? No, it's not clear, is it? From this purport, we certainly can't understand what Prabhupada is alluding to. But any one of these possibilities exists. You can say, so what? And Prabhupada ultimately says, so what? Who cares how the fire started? Put it out. Never mind how you got here. Get it out of you. But, it does interest us. We can't help but be interested because in order to have further, all right, we can want to get out of here because of suffering. But we may also want to get out of here knowing that this is not where we come from, and that there is a place where we came from. Now, so therefore, the question arises in our mind, where did we come from? In fact, these are the questions, right? Who am I? Where have I come from, right? And where am I going to? And these questions naturally arise for any intelligent, thoughtful person. But these purports don't make it precisely clear. And it is not going to be clear. It's not so clear. I think the overall position is that Prabhupada gives us a sense that we originally came from our relationship with Krishna. But in these verses, at least that I'm talking about today, it's not so clear. The living entity takes shelter within the semen of a father, which is injected within the womb of a mother, and with the help of the mother's emulsified ovum, the living entity grows a particular type of body. In this connection, it is to be remembered that the mind of Kasyapa Muni was not in order when he conceived the two sons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakasipu. Therefore, the semen he discharged was simultaneously extremely powerful and mixed with the quality of anger. Why was it extremely powerful? Huh? Because he's an accomplished yogi, because he's a powerful yogi. And why was it mixed with anger? Does anybody remember what the pastime is? Huh? He was upset with his wife because his wife approached him at an inappropriate time. What else was the reason? Why was he upset? But he was also upset because he himself became implicated. He must have been also upset with himself. It is to be concluded that while conceiving a child, one's mind must be very sober and devotional. For this purpose, the Garbhadana Samskar is recommended in the Vedic scriptures. If the mind of the father is not sober, the semen discharged will not be very good. Thus, the living entity wrapped in the matter, produced from the father and mother, will be demoniac, like Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakasipu. The conditions of conception are to be carefully studied. This is a very great science. Does anyone any ladies have any problem with this purport? You're not a lady. Okay, what's your problem? Well, let's see if any ladies have a problem. Okay, well, you're a lawyer, you should be able to say something. Is there any problem with this purport? Huh? Don't look to Nilamada for the answer. Okay, anybody have an answer? Any problem here?
Is the onus in this purport, is it just saying it's the man in this purport?
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Prabhupada says that if the mind of the father is not sober, the semen discharge will not be very good. Doesn't say anything about the woman, does it? It seems to indicate then that it's the consciousness of the father that determines the type of soul that is attracted. And the woman is simply, like a shelter for the semen. Sort of like a, what is a technical word for that? Sort of like, no.
An oven.
Huh? What's that?
An oven. Oven? Like an oven.
No, but, there's like, just like, it's like these, what's that?
Repository?
Yeah, but no, I mean, now, like if it was Time Magazine, they were reporting, they would use a word that the woman is
Incubator.
not an incubator, she's just a convenient place where the man plants the sperm and, that's it. Yeah, but that's not the word receptacle. There's a...
It's a field. Like a field.
A passage. No, right.
See, Thomas, none of you read Time Magazine. Anyway, now, but I don't think that that's the case. To get out of this dilemma, we can prove that this is not the case. And the following proof is there. That even though Kasyapa, if you say that it all depends on the father, the fact of the matter is that the father, the man, depends on the consciousness of the woman. Because if the woman is not in proper devotional mood, it's impossible for the man to be in the devotional mood. No man is going to be as powerful as Kasyapa Muni. You're not going to find any husband who's so powerful as Kasyapa Muni. And despite the fact that he was so powerful, because his wife was not in a proper devotional mood, it affected his consciousness. So the truth of the matter is that the consciousness of the male and the female determines the consciousness of the soul attracted. Even if finally it comes down to the semen of the male, but it's totally dependent upon the consciousness of the female. So and if you said, well, what percentage is the dependence? It's equal. In fact, you could even make the case of saying it's more the woman's consciousness. Because if she's in a devotional mood, she'll influence her husband. And if she's not, she'll influence them the other way. So you could almost make a statement to say it's more dependent upon the consciousness of the woman. So, now we have the situation here, described here of two demons being born, and I think that we will hear some further things now about what happens when they take their birth, and all the insidious type of, circumstances that accompany this event. Now we have seen Kunti entering the temple. One doesn't expect someone to come back from Vrindavan as a target. What's your condition then, Kunti? Huh? Are all the wounds healed?
No, that's why I'm back. That I was going to stay another 2 weeks, but I'm back from medical attention.
What about your son, Rupa?
Rupa is in London. He's visiting his friends in the temple in London.
How long is he going to be there?
We'll be here 1 month.
1 month?
1 month.
So I'll get to see him. Is his physical condition?
He starts being a little shook up for a while. He only got 1 pellet in the chest and he's taken it.
And you have got how many?
17.
Oh.
You still doesn't know what happened. Kunti, you can tell us the story.
Oh, 3 days.
Everybody was going to want to hear it, so I'll say the trouble of telling it 50 times. You can tell it one time, and then we'll put you on the video camera. Launching through this kind of video camera. So now your class is turned over to you. You have these. Here, give it a mic. Everybody wants to hear the story. We'll give you the cordless mic. You have to tell us what you learned from this and how you understand the whole situation. This is a very important event.
Bhaktivedanta night.
Wait a minute, you're not on the microphone. We did it.
Where's Bhadra? Bhadra in Mayapur?
Bhadra is in Mayapur. He's doing well. He likes Mayapur.
Thank you. The class is yours for a while.
Bhalavasami night, and it was.
What does that mean, Bhalavasami?
Bhalavasami is the holy appearance of Sri Radha Kunti. That is the Srimati Radha Kunti. Very important event when Srimati Radha Kunti manifested herself as this Kunti, and there's a special time that if you bathe in Radha Kunti at midnight, it's a very most auspicious time to be at Radha Kunti. Anyway, I was there with Mother Manasi Ganga from the UK, Mother Kirtida, and Bhakti Monica, and my son Sri Rupa, and myself. We went in a private taxi. Big lesson, always take this kind of buses everywhere, do whatever the authorities do. I know Kirtida really tried to make a nice arrangement, and we didn't realize just how dangerous it was, but anyway, Nitai Chan Goswami said that if anyone goes to Radha Kunti, that you should stay in his courtyard, and he has plenty of room. You can rest there until 4:30, 5 o'clock, and return safely. So that's my lesson.
Wait a minute,
It's like going back.
You're skipping you
event.
can't imagine why you're saying what you're saying. So you went,
Okay.
you took your bath in
at 12, and we waited right till the moment of 12, and we all took our bath, and finished, and began going back to our taxi, which was waiting in a huge queue of taxis. There's literally 1,000 taxis there, and so we found our taxi and began to go back, and it was
So loud.
loud, yeah. It's like,
Chaitanya was fine. Why did you do that?
yeah.
Okay, go on.
Okay, so, there was a large tree branch in the road. We were on the Mathura Radhakund Road, which is a major highway leading away from the town of Radhakund. We were about 9 miles from the Kund, and a branch was blocking the road, a large tree branch. It looked like a tree, in fact. Some men were stopping the cars. Resident local ruffians were stopping all the cars and yelling at the drivers, and we were very sleepy. We didn't really understand what was going on. Our driver was older man, and before we could turn around, the man was striking our car with a large tree branch, trying to break the window, and he was not able to break the window, so he turned to a friend of his who came out of the woods, and this guy was holding a gun. It was like a sawed-off shotgun or a large pistol or something. Anyway, so he looked at his friend and yelled something, and the guy took aim and fired into the car. So,
Where did he fire? What part of the...
well, I was, from where I was sitting, I was in the driver's door, on the passenger door side, and my son was in the middle, and the driver was right there next to my son. And from where I was sitting, it was a 2 o'clock position. He came out of the woods about 2 o'clock. And I saw his face. He saw my face. We made eye contact, so it was pretty intense.
Did he fire through the windshield?
Yeah, he broke, I don't know if he was actually trying to kill me per se, but he was trying to do something. He broke the windshield, shattered the windshield with the car, and it was, anyway.
What happened?
Well,
Were you hit by the bullets?
yeah, they all went inside of me. Anyway,
17 pellets?
17, I have still 9 left in the upper shoulder and arm, and I have 2, one in the periphery of the lung and one next to my heart. So I'm very lucky. I have 2 centimeters from my heart. And I'm not ready to die yet because I'm not completely fixed on Guru and Krishna, so I'm glad that I have a little more time to do that. So
after that, what happened?
I was going into shock and I couldn't breathe, and I was trying to ask Kirti, what's going on, am I dying, what's happening, and she just kept trying to assess the situation, trying to understand what was going on. She said, which side is it? I kept telling her, right side, I can't breathe. And in the meantime, we're trying to turn the car around, the Gunda, or thief as they're called, is following us, and he's loading his gun, trying to fire the gun again into the car, and we're trying to back up the car as fast as we can. And so we finally managed to turn the car around and saw some local police about a mile up the road and told them what was happening, tried to warn some other people not to go that way. And we went to the Mathura hospital.
Is that where you wanted to go?
No, I wanted to go to Delhi.
You would have been dead by the time.
I think I would have been, yeah.
Good that it was intelligent. It said, yes, and took you to the Mathura.
No, she just ignored me. She said, no, we're going to Mathura. And I'm glad she did, because I was losing a lot of blood, so it was good. It was very good. So she really helped me. I'm very much indebted to Kirti and to you, Guru. Anyway, that's basically it.
And so then you were in the hospital?
And I was in Mathura for 2 days. I stayed there and then went back to Vrindavan. Then we stayed there for a day and then decided to go to Delhi because the breathing was getting worse. And so I went to Delhi and got another evaluation. And they gave their opinion. They wanted to operate. And I was feeling very sad because I knew I'd be 6 days in the hospital, no less. And I didn't want to do that.
So what happened?
Well, the one surgeon kind of picked up on my feeling. I didn't want to be operated on. It's actually said, this is going to make it worse. If you stick some tube in you right now, it's going to make it worse. So he decided against it. He said, if you can continue to breathe as much as,
So now what will you have to have done here?
In Dallas, I want to go to first of all, a lung specialist, tell me what I need to do with my lungs and if I need to do anything with the pellets that are in my lung. And then I need a skin specialist to finish sewing up the holes in my right arm. So that's basically it. So it's so that it's not healing properly. So I'll go back.
Not healing properly?
Not quite. No, it's not healing because the materials they use in India, it's different here. It's cloth. I mean, it actually sew you up with thread, so it's a little bit different.
What about the pellet next to your heart?
Yeah, that's why I'm here. That's what I'm trying to find. But I go back to Radhakund again, and I plan to go back again. But I just want to do it right next time. Take shelter with the devotees properly.
So now how are we to understand this event? Mahatma. Okay, let's have the microphone.
I have a one-sentence personal realization on that.
Yeah.
Partly my karma, sinful nature, and partly we need to make Radhakund safe. Yeah, so I've reported it to you, and this is awesome. So that's my understanding.
Okay, let's hear what the devotees' realizations are. You're not in shock. Okay, Maharaj.
When I first heard what happened, I was trying to understand. I'm trying to answer the question you just asked, and I didn't come up with an answer. And the only thing my initial response was that when you live in a foreign place, you just have to learn how to live there, learn what is to be done and not to be done. It reminded me of a conversation when the devotee was asking Prabhupada about different kinds of prasadam that were getting him sick in India. And Prabhupada said, being a devotee isn't a challenge to eternal nature. You can do anything and everything. So that was my first reaction. From the transcendental perspective, and Krishna's desire, I can't understand. As one devotee said, sometimes she goes out and yells at Krishna, but she knows he'll forgive her. So that was my first reaction. Not that I was yelling at Krishna, but I was just thinking. Of course, having lived in Vrindavan, I saw that occasionally there are instances where devotees are robbed, women are attacked and assaulted, and it's unfortunate, and all I can think is that they just have to be aware of the situation, protect themselves. But my reaction was I got a little mad at Krishna.
Anyone else want to volunteer an explanation? Okay, pass the microphone to.
I just wanted to say personally also that we should launch a bigger plan with the Indian government. And they should bring an army and try and wipe out these gundis that are all over harassing the devotees everywhere.
Well, yeah, it would have to be the national government because the state government in UP is the most corrupt government in all of India. And many of the gundas are connected with the police. They may be family members, or all we know. It's not as if, that's the famous thing worldwide, at least in many countries, that the reason why it's not as if these people are not, they can figure out immediately who that was. It's not difficult to find out who shot that gun. Very easy to figure that out. They can find that out in one day if they want to. But the question is, what is their motivation to find out? If pressure has to be applied if you want to. It would have to be applied, like you say, internationally and on a national level. Because locally, unless the local people put local police get the pressure and the heat, they're not going to do it. You know, so it's like in the Philippines, there's been a communist insurgence for the last 30 years because the government wants there to be a communist insurgence, so the government has to constantly have the money for defense and keep a big, police force, which they use to keep themselves in power. So all of these things, unfortunately, there's a very close connection in many places between law enforcement agencies and lawbreakers. They somehow serve each other's purposes in strange ways. Let's hear what Nadine has.
When I first heard about this, I just burst out crying. Kartikeya told me once more, and I cried. I was so upset because, first of all, Kunti's a dear friend, and we've talked so much. This was her first trip to India, and we talked so much about.
She was waiting to go to India for how many years? How many years you've been at the boat? 21 years. She finally got to go to India, to go to Vrindavan, to bathe in Radhakund, and then she gets shot by a shotgun.
Oh, I just was.
Okay, what are you going to add to the discussion? Apart from your sympathy.
My emotional attachment, the whole thing was very upsetting, but I remember what came to me was I kind of put myself in the situation. And I remember when I went to India and I returned, I couldn't eat, I lost many pounds, but it was so hard on my body, but I felt like I was in very ecstatic consciousness. And I remember when I returned to San Diego, Mother Parvati looked at me and she could just see how my consciousness was from the time spent in India, and she said, my prayer for you, Nandini, is that you can maintain this consciousness here in the West. And
okay.
So I think my realization when I was in India was how I forgot so much of even my identity in the West. And had an experience like that, had an experience like what happened to you happen to me, I feel that I would realize how it would probably drive it into my sick head, how very important it is to maintain that consciousness, and that ongoing consciousness, because at any moment.
Okay. Anyone else want to volunteer? Dasi going to give us a legal opinion.
Well, it's not very legal, Sugar David, and it's very neophyte. And what I thought when I heard about it was that Mother Kunti must really be an amazing devotee and very dear to Guru and Krishna to have to endure such a thing, especially in connection with Radhakund and Vrindavan. And so I thought, I knew that of all the devotees, for that to happen to the Mother Kunti, it wouldn't slow her down one bit, her devotion to the Guru and to Krishna. But we're also really concerned about her. And we could never get enough information either, so it's so almost.
Mirabai, you want to give some view? Huh? Let's see what Mirabai says. Mirabai, how will you see this? What is your idea of this? What is the meaning behind this?
I remember when I was in India, because when I visited from Jammu and I was going to Vrindavan, and we got on the Matra, and that time we were supposed to go to Vrindavan. But the station master told us not to go to Vrindavan this time. It's very dangerous. It's better you wait in the guest house and go next morning. Because there are so many cases that happen throughout the So we took his advice and we stayed at the guest house and went next morning. Because we had to see the situations, what are the situations we have to protect, unprotect.
So, as Muhammad said, you're also saying that we have to know the local situation wherever we go and not ignore it.
Yes.
Take all precautions.
consciousness.
John, you reside often in Vrindavan. What is your realization from this? One of people.
Well, I also agree with what my husband and the rabbi said, that it's very important to understand what to do and what not to do. But from another perspective, I thought that, what happened is so illogical. Illogical, yeah. So we can't even really conceive of how and why, but I guess from a transcendental perspective, I thought it was a real test for Kunti, both on the platform of knowing that, you can die at any time, and also how eager she was to actually be in Vrindavan, and how it would change her view of Vrindavan, either in a positive way or a negative way. Is what a shocking thing to happen. And I thought for myself, I probably would have been on the next plane back. And I was so amazed to see that she hadn't come back, and that she had stayed, which was a very good sign, which meant that she endured it and somehow transcended it and was able to still experience that very special, sweet, divine atmosphere. And there's one other thing. I don't remember.
Any men have something to say?
It is definitely a very, very sad affair.
It's very sad to hear something like this has happened. We definitely should bring it to authorities because guns are not legal in India. And this is a very, very serious affair. The national ruling party comprises of BJP as the majority member. BJP stands for Bharatiya Janata Party. Majority of BJP is made up of devotees of Lord Ramachandra and Lord Krishna. And the government will not take this lightly. But we have to do our part to bring it to the attention of the government.
Maybe it's more appropriate that since you are originally from India, that if you or other persons here in Dallas who are connected to this temple from the Indian community bring it to the Indian government's attention, they'll take it more seriously. That a member, an American citizen member of your community here had this happen. They went to this holy place in India, and it would have more effect that way.
I'll be happy to do what I can.
That's right.
Just one last thing I want to mention to all the devotees here, that this could very well happen to me. Please do not take this as something that happened to you because you didn't look Indian or anything like that. The general law and order situation in India is very bad, and it has deteriorated quite a bit in the last five years or so. Things are improving, but at a very, very slow pace. When I went to Vrindavan with Mother Kirtida, I had to encounter really a tough time from Andhras, those pandits who want some donations so that they can facilitate my darshan of the deities. It was really a hard time. I speak the local language, I am Indian and all that stuff. I can understand it's more difficult for you all, but please don't take it in the other sense. It could very well happen to me.
Yeah. Dharma, you wanted to say something? Your name is Dharma.
I don't think I have anything more. I think most of
Okay.
it has been said.
Nathan?
No, I was just thinking how purifying the bathing in Radha Kund is described, that when you bathe in Radha Kund, that you get so much benefit of love for Krishna and so much purification. So I was thinking that sometimes when you suffer after purification, maybe it's possible that that's a further releasing of karma, because when you suffer, that frees you from certain karma. That means a certain kind of karma has been released. So when you do devotional service in Vrindavan, you get 1,000 times the benefit. So I think that also would be a gigantic purification, having to suffer so much, because we're always told that if we get sick in Vrindavan or something happens, then we're actually getting a lot of purification and a lot of benefit, even though we feel horrible. So I was thinking possibly that that's wiped out 1,000 times more of the karma.
So your conclusion then would be that Kunti was fortunate.
Simultaneously fortunate and
yeah, spiritually fortunate. Materially unfortunate, but spiritually fortunate.
I mean, that's in the purification sense, I was thinking.
That's your conclusion. All right, we should end then on a positive note. Unless someone wants to add something. Oh, Yudhisthira. Yudhisthira is going to add final words.
I only want to say that I think it's very good that you asked Kunti to share this with everyone, because a certain percentage of the community would have had a negative reaction, because it is shocking to hear. And other things like Bhaktivedanta Maharaj had a dreadful experience in Mayapur that stayed with him his whole life. So,
what did he say?
He said that he's better now.
He's what?
He's doing better now. He lost a leg just as they removed the
Lost his leg.
But he's moving around faster now, and in fact, Maharaj said that leg was always giving him trouble, continuous trouble. But then when that leg was removed, he moves faster now. And Swami said that I'll never forget Radha Kun. Now that this has happened to me, I will always remember Radha Kun. And I recommend everyone to go. I still think we should all go.
Wow.
I always felt that Kunti was one of the most advanced devotees I ever met, and this proves it. So welcome back, and we're happy that you're going to be coming.
Shri Radha Kun ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Gaur Premanandi ki jai.
What's up?